Why did the Mongols choose to shoot bows that way?
So it was all based on mounted archery. So when you shoot, I mean, there are arrows on the other side of the bow. So when you're riding your horse with no hands, right? You've got your bow in one hand, you've got your arrow in the other, and those come together. They didn't go over the bow. They brought them together, and then they grab onto the arrow.
So their arrow was on the right side of the bow,
Yes.
even if they were right-handed?
Well, yeah. So they're right-handed.
Okay.
Arrow comes in this way, so then they grab onto the arrow. Remember, they're riding their horse, right?
Uh-huh.
So they're bouncing up and down, and then they grab onto it, and they push the arrow forward, and they knock it, and they put their thumb around it, and it's the pressure of their finger against the knock that holds it against the bow.
So if they're shooting right-handed, is their arrow on the right side of the bow?
Yes.
So it's not on the left side of the bow like a compound
It's on
bow?
the right side of the bow.
It's on the right side of the bow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And it's the pressure of your finger that holds it against there so that when they're riding, they shoot.
But why a thumb? Why can't you do that with like traditional finger tabs?
Because when you grab on it with your fingers, you're not able to push it, not put enough pressure on it to hold it in there. And it has to do with arrow paradox, and it's all kinds of weird stuff. So when you'll see a horse-mounted archer, when they shoot, they'll actually flip their bow because those bows aren't cut to center. So the arrow's pointed way to the right. Like a right-handed shooter, their arrow is pointed way to the right because that bow, if you notice, it's not narrowed at all. Or it's very narrow. I mean, just a little bit.
The width of the bow forces the
so that arrow is
off
pointed
to the
way out to
side.
the right. So you have to actually flip it so that the string comes behind the arrow so it shoots straight where you're looking. It's called katra.
Oh, wow.
So it's so cool how they did that stuff. They were so much smarter than we are now.
Well, it was out of necessity, right? Because they're using them for war and for hunting.
Yep.
So, but the thumb thing, had other people figured that out?
Well, it was mostly in the Asian cultures, and because it was mounted archery. The Japanese have Kyudo archery, and that's what we know now is basically on the ground a martial art type of archery. But it was originally, the Yumi bow has got a short bottom limb so that it could maneuver over the horse. Oh. So all that stuff was all war driven, and with your thumb, you can draw it back so much farther. You've got short little people that are with a 34-inch draw length.
Right, because you have extra inches with your thumb.
Right, when I shoot my thumb, my draw length's 2.5 inches longer than with my fingers. Oh. So I can get into way better alignment, and yeah, it's really cool stuff.
And then the Mongols figured out a way. They made, was it out of bone? Mm-hmm. The thumb ring that they had?
Ivory, jade, they made it all out of all brass, whatever they had.
See if you can find Mongol archery thumb rings. Because
there's a different than that.
Oh, look at that guy. He's
you see how his bow is tilted that way?
Yes.
So he has produced katra with that.
So this man is shooting as he's...
See his bow flip like that?
As he's riding a horse. Now, the Comanche were particularly adept at shooting while on horseback as well. Did they use a similar method?
They have. There's been so many different holds on a string, and it was all based on basically wartime, and did they have to shoot off a horse or not? There was pinch draws. There was different ways of holding a bow upside down. There was, I don't know specifically what the Comanches did, but all kinds of different ways of holding the string, and it was all based on necessity or the length of the bow, particular length of the bow, so it could be over a horse, shooted mounted, like what we do now. We have bow or blinds that are too short for stick bows, so we shoot shorter recurves. So it's always fashioned to what the game is.
The Mongols would shoot while the horse was in the air. Like they would time the shot so that as the horse was leaping in the air, there was less impact.
Yep.
So that's when they would Yep. That's when they would release the bow.
Yep. It's all a feeling that comes up, and you feel that impact, and it becomes a timing thing. And when your subconscious can put so many things together, but when you take that style of archery and you put it into precision, it's pretty difficult.
Do you find Mongol thumb ring? Because it's a very interesting thing when you see what it looks like. It's a thing that sits on your thumb that almost looks like the bottom of a spoon.
Yeah, and so that's a leather one. If you look up like custom thumb rings, like there's another one.
Yeah, so there's one, that bone one right there that you see there on the right-hand side. So that's what it looks like.
Yep. So you just that sits on that ledge, which makes it illegal for competition. But you can hold.
What's illegal in competition?
You can't shoot rings in competition.
Why is that?
Because they consider it a release aid. Because they've never shot one, they don't know how difficult it is, really.
Interesting.
But so that hooks onto that ledge, and you can hold so much weight because the weight. I mean, some of these guys are shooting like 110-pound horse bows, and that's a leather one there. But
are you allowed to use a leather one?
Yeah, so you can shoot a leather one, but
you can't use one of those bone ones.
You can't use a bone one
because of that little ledge where the string sits.
Yep.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and so you said it's all Asian cultures that had figured
mostly,
that out?
Yeah, mostly. And they're all different types. Like every culture had a different. Like the Ottomans had a certain one, and
they had a thumb ring as well.
Yeah, the Ottomans, the Turks. I mean, it's all different types. There's all kinds of them.
Do we know the history of the thumb release? Do we know when that started?
I mean, they've found it in tombs.
Wow.
It's old. I mean, it's how archery started, as far as I know.